What if the Hulk was addicted to cookies? Cookies are life. An incredible Hulk fan fiction. Chapter 1. The Sweet Discovery. The fluorescent lights of the Stark Industries lab hummed overhead as Bruce Banner rubbed his tired eyes. It was well past midnight, and he'd been hunched over gamma radiation readings for 12 hours. The numbers blurred together energy signatures from the latest interdimensional breach. Calculations that could mean the difference between containment and catastrophe. His hands had started their familiar tremor, the telltale sign that stress was building to dangerous levels, the warning that came before the heat, before the green, before everything went wrong. Bruce had learned to read his body's signals like a seismologist monitoring fault lines. The tremor meant he had maybe 30 minutes before his elevated cortisol levels triggered the neurochemical cascade that brought out the other guy. He should go home, do his breathing exercises, take a cold shower, all the prescribed methods for staying human. A small cardboard box on the adjacent workstation caught his attention. A yellow sticky note was attached in Maya's careful handwriting. "Thanks for covering my shift. My grandmother's recipe. Hope they help with the late night. Maya." Inside were 6 perfectly round chocolate chip cookies, their surfaces golden brown and studded with dark chocolate chunks that looked hand-chopped rather than mass-produced. Bruce picked one up, noting the weight substantial, dense with butter. He inhaled the rich aroma of vanilla and brown sugar, underlaid with something that reminded him of his childhood kitchen. He took a tentative bite, expecting nothing more than a brief sugar rush, and something extraordinary happened. The complex flavors, sweet, salty, with hints of caramel and a whisper of cinnamon, seemed to wash over his perpetually tense mind like a warm tide. For the first time in months, the constant knot of anxiety that lived between his shoulder blades loosened. He ate the second cookie more slowly, savoring each bite. This wasn't just eating, this was meditation. His heart rate, which typically ran 20 beats per minute higher than normal, actually decreased. The tremor in his hands stopped completely. By the third cookie, he realized something unprecedented was happening. He felt genuinely calm. Not the forced serenity of meditation or clinical numbness of sedatives, but actual peace. Over the next 3 days, those remaining cookies became more precious than any scientific equipment. He rationed them with the precision of a pharmacist, one with morning coffee while reviewing overnight security reports, another during lunch break to counteract the stress of a heated discussion about weapon containment protocols. But when they were gone, the anxiety flooded back with compound interest, as if his nervous system was punishing him for the brief respite. Bruce found himself making detours first to Romano's Bakery on 5th Street, where the elderly owner insisted he sample the amaretti alongside the chocolate chips. Then to the gourmet market in Soho, where artisanal cookies cost more than most people's daily salary, but delivered pharmaceutical-grade tranquility. He began to understand the desperate mathematics of addiction. How many cookies equaled one peaceful night's sleep? How many varieties he needed in reserve to handle different types of crisis. His apartment counter gradually filled with an increasingly sophisticated collection, snickerdoodles for board meetings, oatmeal raisin for equipment failures, double chocolate fudge for the nights when he woke up remembering cities he'd helped destroy. He kept detailed notes like a clinical trial. Which textures worked best for acute panic? Optimal timing for consumption. The half-life of cookie-induced calm. For 2 weeks, he felt like he'd found the answer. Hulk incidents decreased dramatically. He slept better, even accepted social invitations, confident he could maintain equilibrium with the right cookie supply. The problem revealed itself during a routine, she-yelled, briefing about stolen gamma weapons that used principles Bruce had pioneered, now turned into instruments of potential mass destruction. The familiar guilt began building as Fury detailed casualty projections, each number a reminder of what Bruce's research had unleashed upon the world. He reached instinctively for his emergency cookie, a ritual as automatic as checking his pulse. His fingers found only lint and a forgotten pen. He'd stress-eaten his entire supply during the taxi ride over, unconsciously consuming his safety net while trapped in Manhattan traffic. The heat started building in his chest like a furnace coming online. His heart rate spiked from 70 to 120 in seconds, vision beginning to tinge green at the edges. The conference room seemed to shrink as his shoulders broadened, fabric straining against expanding muscle mass. Around the table, seasoned agents began their practiced retreat, hands moving to weapons they knew were useless, calculating exit strategies they drilled but hoped never to use. "Dr. Banner?" Agent Coulson's voice seemed underwater. "Are you all right?" But then Agent Hill slid a plate of sugar cookies across the table. "Someone brought these from their grandmother's recipe," she said casually. Bruce grabbed one with his enlarging hand and bit down. The transformation stopped mid-hulk. Green skin faded to human pink. His torn shirt hung loose. Everyone stared in silence as Bruce chewed, cookie crumbs falling onto the conference table. "I think I need to make a phone call," he said quietly. Chapter 2. Green Giant, Sweet Tooth. The mission went sideways when the terrorist base exploded. In the chaos, Bruce's emergency cookie stash, carefully portioned in his tactical vest, was incinerated by falling debris. The realization hit him before the physical pain. No cookies meant no buffer against the adrenaline surge flooding his system. The transformation was different this time. Instead of rage, there was desperate, single-minded need. "Hulk want cookies," the Green Giant announced, standing amid rubble with an expression more lost than furious. What followed was Manhattan's strangest chase scene. The Hulk bounded through streets with surprising care, examining bakery offerings with focused intensity. At Romano's bakery, he gently lifted the entire display case, peering inside like a child at a candy store. "The biscotti," old Romano found himself saying helpfully. "My nonna's recipe." The Hulk nodded eagerly, accepting the cookie with careful fingers. "Is the Hulk shopping?" a news reporter whispered as cameras rolled. That Hulk cookie run began trending within minutes. At each stop, the Hulk's evaluation became surprisingly sophisticated. He would examine offerings with the focused intensity of a wine sommelier, sometimes breaking off small pieces to test texture and flavor balance. The dry biscotti at Café Luna earned disappointed grunts and a gentle shake of his massive head, not worthy of destruction, simply inadequate. Gas station cookies were literally thrown into the Hudson River with the dismissive force of a major league pitcher. But his standards weren't impossibly high. They were discerning. He appreciated honest effort, giving encouraging thumbs up to a teenager's box mix cookies while somehow calculating exact change with fingers the size of rolling pins. At a small Ethiopian cafe, he spent 10 minutes carefully examining honey-spiced cookies, communicating entirely through gestures with the owner who spoke little English, but understood the universal language of a customer with refined taste. When he found artisanal chocolate chunk cookies at Levain Bakery, still warm from the oven, the Hulk's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. He sat cross-legged on the sidewalk, carefully unwrapping each cookie like spun gold. By the time the Avengers arrived, the Hulk was surrounded by crowds offering homemade treats, no longer afraid but genuinely curious. "This is officially the weirdest Tuesday ever," Tony said, landing in his Iron Man suit. Natasha approached slowly with a white paper bag. "Big guy, we brought cookies from that place in Brooklyn you like." The Hulk looked up, chocolate smeared across his green face. But seeing his team people who'd risked their lives to bring him cookies, something shifted. In a shattered storefront window's reflection, he saw himself, a massive creature surrounded by crumbs and worried faces. "Hulk sorry," his voice smaller than usual. "Hulk not mean to scare people. Hulk need." He looked down at his hands, each holding half-eaten cookies, understanding the magnitude of what had happened. Hulk have problem. Chapter 3. Finding Balance. Bruce sat in Levain Bakery's ruins, head in hands. The Avengers had dispersed crowds while Tony spun media coverage positively. The owner refused compensation, saying publicity would be worth millions. "I used them as a crutch," Bruce said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of scientific honesty applied to personal failure. The cookies were the first thing that actually helped with the anger, really helped, not just suppressed or delayed it. But then I needed more, and more often, and stronger varieties. I started planning my entire day around cookie availability, keeping backup stashes, calculating optimal consumption schedules like they were medication. He gestured at the destruction around them, the gentle destruction of a creature seeking comfort, rather than expressing rage. I turned the Hulk into an addict too. I weaponized his need. The admission felt like exposing a wound. Bruce had spent years analyzing every aspect of his condition with clinical detachment, but he'd never applied that same scrutiny to his own coping mechanisms. He'd been so focused on managing the Hulk that he'd ignored Bruce Banner's equally desperate need for relief. "It's not different from any addiction," Natasha said, sitting beside him. "You found something that worked, that gave you control when everything else was chaos. Anyone would have done the same." "The Hulk literally went shopping for pastries," Tony added gently. "As rampages go, this was pretty considerate. No casualties, minimal damage, and you boosted the local economy." Steve knelt down. "What do you need from us?" "I don't know," Bruce admitted. "I can't go cold turkey. Transformations get worse. But I can't live like this, measuring emotional stability in cookies per day." Tony pulled up holographic displays. "What if we approach this scientifically? Analyze what compounds affect your neurochemistry. Create healthier alternatives with the same benefits minus addiction properties." "And I know therapists who specialize in addiction," Natasha added. "People who understand that recovery isn't about shame, it's about finding better tools." Over the following weeks, Bruce threw himself into recovery with scientific intensity. Tony's substitute bars weren't quite the same, but helped bridge gaps during cravings. Dr. Chen, the specialist Natasha recommended, helped him understand his addiction wasn't weakness, but a symptom of untreated trauma. "You've been managing a condition that would drive most people to breakdown," she explained. "Finding something that helped isn't shameful, it's resourceful. Now we expand your toolkit." Bruce learned to separate healthy coping from unhealthy dependency. He could still enjoy real cookies as occasional pleasures, rather than pharmaceutical necessities. He developed other strategies, breathing exercises, regular sleep, even ukulele playing at Clint's suggestion. Most importantly, he learned to recognize warning signs and ask for help before crisis points. 3 months later, Bruce sat in another Chi-LD briefing as Fury outlined their next mission. When it concluded, Agent Hill offered chocolate chip cookies. "No, thank you," Bruce said politely, accepting coffee instead. "But they look delicious." Walking toward the Quinjet, Bruce felt the Hulk's voice quieter, more thoughtful than in years. "Banner learning good things," it rumbled approvingly. "Hulk learning, too. Banner already strong." Bruce patted his jacket pocket where one oatmeal cookie waited, not as emergency medication, but as a small treat for after the mission. A reward, not a crutch. "Ready for the mission, Dr. Banner?" Steve asked. "Ready," Bruce replied, and truly meant it. Ready to face whatever came next, knowing that true control came from accepting help and understanding that even the strongest sometimes needed sweetness in life. They just needed to know when to stop at one.